Hello friends, so today we are going to learn about the weavers, iron smelters and the factory owners, that is in chapter 6 of the class 8th history textbook. So let's find out what this chapter is all about. Now initially we know that industrialization process that began throughout the world had two aspects attached to it. The first was the textile industry and the second was the iron and steel industry. For any industrialization to move forward, to grow, the textile industry and iron and steel industry had to be there. And the industrialization process in Britain, which was amongst the leaders of the industrialization in the world in 19th century, had a close nexus with colonization of India. So as we all know that when Britain came to India, it came with the idea of trade. But the trade went so much, the trade grew so much that they eventually occupied the territories, and now they were very much interested in the textile industry of India. That is, they were very much interested in the clothing. They were very much interested in the kind of clothes that were manufactured in India. So basically, initially, they used to import goods to England. They used to import Indian goods, Indian textile goods to England, and they used to sell it there and throughout the world and gain huge profit. They used to incur huge profits, but eventually they established a very vast mechanized production of these raw materials, which they used to carry from India. So they rapidly enhanced their own production and manufacturing, and then they used to make their own products and sell. And now they saw India as a dumping ground. They saw India as a market for these products. So basically, we see a shift in the position of these two nations. First, Britain used India as an import nation, where they used to take the products and they used to sell it in the Britain and other markets. Now they used India as their export market. So basically, the position changed very differently. With the growth of industrial production, manufactured goods, especially textiles, iron and steel, from Britain began flooding India. So Indian manufacturers, they had a huge impact on the textile industry, and they were very famous. They were very promising, and they had a promotion throughout the world. But now their industry was in decline, just because the manufacturing process in England began rapidly and industrialization process rapidly spread, and now India was seen as only a market, not as a source for raw material. The picture that we see here is the trading ships on the port of Surat in the 17th century. Surat was a very important port up till early 19th century. After that, due to decline of the textile industry, it also declined. Moving on, Indian textiles were very famous across the world. Around 1750, before the British conquered Bengal, India was world's largest producer of the cotton textile, exporting to Southeast, West, and Central Asia in the regions such as Java, Sumatra, etc. So, Indian textiles were not only famous; Indians were also a huge exporter of the textiles. They were famous around the globe. They used to export in a large quantities to the Asian continent, the Southeast, West, and Central Asia, and they were promoted vastly by all the traders that used to come to India and that used to take the Indian products and they used to sell it to the other worlds. Bengal was a leading producer because it had plenty of raw materials, supplies, and it was also a port. So Bengal flourished very much around that time. The picture given here is of patola weave, which was woven in Surat, that became a part of the weaving tradition in Indonesia as well. So we can see the soft power, we can call it a soft power hegemony of the Indian textile industry that was promoted across the world, and people were accepting its textiles as their own culture and traditions. Moving on, there were various types of textiles which were famously known as various names and which were promoted by various traders. So the first, when we come across this, the first one is muslin. Muslin was used by European traders to refer to all the fine clothes, and this was introduced to them through the Arabs. Arabs in their city of Mosul, which is in present day Iraq, they used to take the clothes. They used to take the clothes and these textiles from India, and they used to take it to the Arab, and from there they used to sell it to the other European and American nations. Because of that, the Europeans came to know about this fine textured cloth and that they referred to as muslin. The second one is calico, which was the name used by the Portuguese referring to Calicut, the spice export hub. So the Portuguese, when they first came to India, they landed in Calicut, and from Calicut, they used huge amount of spices. They used spices, but for a cherry on top, they also got very interested in the textile industry of India. So with them, with the spices, they also took the Indian textile, which was very fine woven clothes. They named it as calico, and it became very famous from wherever to wherever they sold it. Now, this is a page which is from an order book of the East India Company in the 1730s. So this page shows that a huge amount of order was given to the Indian manufacturers to manufacture these textiles, so that the Europeans, they can take these textiles back to Europe and sell at a huge profit. We can see that how the Indian products were in demand so much, how their popularity was growing day by day, and how they used to get advances from from Europeans to, manufacture these products. Moving on, chins and bandana. These are two types of fine woven clothes. Bandana refers to brightly colored cloth produced through a method of tying and dyeing. This was used as a scarf. Chins is derived from a Hindi word chint, a cloth with small and colorful flowery designs. So these were the clothes that were amongst one of the very popular clothes that were popular throughout the world, and that were used in the trading by the traders that used to come to India, and they used to sell it to the European and the American markets. Moving on to the Indian textiles in European market. Now the European market, the manufacturing in the European market was taking a very slow pace. They had just began production of the textile industry. They had just initiated production and manufacturing of the textile industry, and they already faced a severe and huge competition from the Indian products. So the Europeans, they used to take the Indian products and sell it to the European market. The indigenous producers of the European market, which used to manufacture the textile, were greatly devastated by this because their products were not so popular, and they were very much downgraded by the popularity of the Indian products. So they demanded to the government that they needed a security, and security, it is in the form of the ban of the Indian textile products, in order for their indigenous industry to grow. So England started setting up its own textile industries in the 18th century. And due to this demand, the demand by the indigenous manufacturers of the European nations, the Calico Act was passed to ban the use of printed cotton textiles, chins, that was chins, in England. So because of that, because of the huge popularity of the Indian textile products, European market suffered a great loss. And to promote and enhance their own growth, to promote and enhance the growth of the localized industrialization, to promote industrialization in general of their own nation, they had to ban this product in order for their manufacturers, to grow. So Calico Act was passed, and this we can see as the first step towards the decline. This can be seen as the first step towards the decline of the Indian textile. Moving on, there's a question: why do you think the act was called the Calico Act? What does the name tell us about the kind of textiles the act wanted to ban? So obviously know that what calico means. Calico meant fine woven texture clothes, cotton clothes. And chins was specifically targeted because chins was very popular in the European market. European market wanted to ban this product only. The calico was referred in order to, make focus on the Indian textile, because the Indian textiles were famously known as calico. So the term used was calico, and chins especially was banned from marketing in the European market. what does the name tell us about the kind of textiles that Act wanted to ban? The kind of textile was this, the fine woven cotton clothes. The spinning jenny and the steam engine. This can be seen as the second step towards decline of the Indian textile market. So the invention of the spinning jenny in 1764 by John Kay and the steam engine in 1786 by Richard Arkwright revolutionized the cotton textile weaving. In European market, the mechanized production of these textiles made a huge and promising comeback to the world market. So basically, the Europeans, they manufactured these textiles in a huge manner. They manufactured a lot at once, and they used the raw materials, their own raw materials, and then they made the final products, and then they marketed their own products, their indigenous products, to the world market. So basically, Indian weavers, Indian producers faced a severe competition in the face of these two things. First, there was the Calico Act, which banned the use of chins, and the second was the spinning jenny and the steam engine. Because in India, the producers were still working by their own hands; they were using manual labor. But here, the machine, the mechanized production, enhanced the growth of the textile and promoted the textile industry by a rapid scale. So it basically revolutionized the cotton textile and the weaving industry. We can see here a spinning jenny, a machine by which a single worker could operate several spindles. So obviously they would have an upper hand, because obviously they have machines which work faster and which can work in, which can give better quantities than a human. Now coming to the major weaving centers, we can see here that we basically have 4 weaving centers. This is the first, this is the second, this is the third, and this is the fourth. So Bengal, as we all know, was the leading producer of the textile, was leading the textile production in India. Dhaka was also very famous. Dhaka also manufactured some of the products which were very famous across the world, which is also known as Jamdani, one of which is also known as Jamdani. The Coromandel coast saw the textile production as well. And in Gujarat, Surat, Ahmedabad, these cities were also very famous. Because these 3 were port cities, they gained huge prominence and popularity in the weaving industry. Now, who were the weavers? Weavers often belonged to communities that specialized in weaving. Their skills were passed on from one generation to the next. Weavers, they had their specific set of skills, that was weaving, and they used to produce very fine and very distinguished, very exquisite nature of goods, very exquisite nature of textiles that became famous because of their hard work and their ideas. So basically, their skill was passed on from generation to generation. If I am a weaver, then my son is also going to be a weaver, and will have the same skill set, because he has seen me working, or that. The weaving process starts with the spinning, followed by weaving of thread and dyeing, done by rangres or chipikars. Now we should remember that there were 2 processes. The first process was spinning, which was done basically by women. So women were handed the role of spinning, and the second process was weaving, which was done by men. So here we have gender roles. Gender played a role at that time also, but women were also in the production business. So spinning was given to the women, and weaving it was given to the men. Men used to do the spinning. Now, this process was also followed by dyeing, which means coloration of the textiles, and chipigars. It means that block-like patterns, which was given on a cloth. Now let's see why the Indian textile industry declined in the 19th century. So first, we can see here that there was this competition. There was this huge competition with the British textile industry. The British textile industry grew rapidly with the mechanization of their mechanized process due to industrialization in the British. Britain. So the mechanization of the textile meant that they had machines, they had factories set up, so they had their own raw material and they had their own good. Rather than promoting and rather than selling the Indian goods, now they were promoting and selling their own goods at a cheaper rate because they had no import duties or export duties. And the European market and the other markets preferred the European goods because they were in bulk quantity and they were almost of the same quality as that of the Indian products. So Indian products could not compete with the British textiles at that time. High import duties on the Indian textiles in Britain. So the Indian products which used to be exported to the Britain, they used to incur high import duties, because of which their overall cost increased, and that is why it became costly, and people, they preferred the European indigenous goods rather than the costly Indian goods. Loss of markets in Africa, America, and Europe. So basically, when the traders which used to sell the products of the Indian market, they were now using their own products for selling in the markets. Europeans were using their own products to sell in various markets. So basically, Indian textile industry could not survive that competition, and that is how they lost the export markets in Africa, America, and in Europe. Now, the fourth reason is the import of the British goods in India. Now, the Britishers not only saw India as a manufacturing hub, but after their mechanized production and after they came in the competition themselves, they used India as a market for their manufactured goods. They saw an opportunity in India as a vast market for their produced goods, and obviously they sold those goods at a very cheaper rate than the Indian products, because obviously it was a mechanized production, so the cost of production was cheaper, and because Indian products they came out from manual labor, so the cost of production for the Indian goods were higher. So that is how the import of the British goods in India also directly or indirectly gave the reason for the decline of the Indian textile industries. Let's move on to the handloom and weaving. So even after decline of the Indian textile industry, this handloom became an exception because it survived the decline. It was because the handloom could not be produced by machines. It was only produced through the hands of the people by manual labor, and handloom weaving saw an uprise. So Solapur and Madura became the districts which were famous for handloom weaving, and they became very famous in the 19th century because the other textile industries saw a decline. This handloom weaving industry was the only one who saw a promotion, and which also did not decline along with the other Indian textile industries. Khadi became a symbol of the nationalism. Khadi is a kind of handloom, and the charkha on which the handloom was woven came to represent India and was put on the tricolor flag of the Indian National Congress, adopted in 1931. So in the late 19th century, when nationalism process of India began, there was this slogan put up by Gandhiji that boycott the English goods and have your own Swadeshi goods. So the promotion of the Swadeshi goods also promoted the handloom industries, and Gandhiji propagated and promoted the khadi to become a symbol of nationalism so that we can see that we are serving our own country by promoting our own manufacturers and by promoting our own raw materials and promoting our own industry. So that is how it became a symbol of handloom. We saw after that we see the rise of the cotton mills. The first cotton mill was established in 1854 in Bombay, and by 1900s 84 mills were functional in Bombay. So we saw the rise of the cotton mills, and it also gained boom because of the First World War. Because of the First World War, the Britain had to, inhibit their production of the goods and their export to the Indian market. And also they needed the production. They needed some extra production for their military needs. So the Indian industry was called upon to supply to their military needs, and Textile imports from Britain fell and demand for the Indian clothes increased. During these times, Indian textile industry saw a boost because the Britain goods were not imported now, and the Indian goods saw a boom because of the First World War.